Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast.
So we've got a very interesting guest, a guy I've been following for a couple of years now since I decided to dive down the arrow rabbit hole. Everybody that's listening to this and watching this, because this will be on YouTube, they already know who it is. We got Mr. Troy Fowler, the Ranchfairy, Mr. Heavy Arrows, Adult Arrows, all of that, man. I have been following your stuff. I was trying to remember today where I first saw you. And I want to say it was on YouTube. Somebody mentioned something like, hey, have you heard of Ranchfairy? And I'm like, no, what is that? Right. This was 3-4 years ago.
Sure.
And so I look your stuff up, and at this point, I've only been bow hunting for 4 years. So when I first found out about you, I took it straight to the bank. But me having monkey brain. Well, the thing is, my monkey brain, I didn't actually pay attention. All I heard was, dude,
yeah,
listen to this. I know what you're gonna say. Gonna say. But when I first started building, I guess you could say more adult size arrows, I got my first one was a Carbon Express. Hunter Extreme or something like that. And Terminator Hunter, that's what it was. It was a Walmart arrow, right? Because I didn't know anything.
It says Terminator on it. It's bound to be good.
I know, right? That's what I'm thinking. And it's camo and it's cool. And I knew nothing, right?
We were all there, man. We were all there.
Yeah, dude. So I go up to Walmart. I grab like 6 of these things. I cut them myself, square them up, build them right. But I'm putting 150 grain insert, 100 grain point.
On a 340.
Do what?
On a 340.
Dude, it probably wasn't even that stiff. It was probably less than that. I mean, it said 55 to 70, but we know
400.
Yeah. So I'm shooting that.
Okay.
I'm shooting that. I think the heaviest I went was 575.
Yep.
And at that time I was shooting one of those Bass Pro Shop bows with a whisker biscuit, a peep sight, and one of those cheap little Trophy Ridge, fixed pins.
Yeah, we all did that, man.
Yeah. So I'm thinking I'm the baddest thing in the woods. And I eventually, because I love to tinker with stuff, especially after watching your videos and like actually starting to listen and like, oh, this isn't, because I couldn't get it tuned right. I mean, it'd be hitting left, right.
Yeah, it's real bad. Yep.
Yeah, it was terrible. And I remember reaching out to you back then and saying, hey, man, I'm having arrow problems. This is what I'm dealing with. I'm shooting a whisker biscuit. And the first thing you said was drop the biscuit, get a drop away.
Yeah, right.
I was like, okay, cool.
They don't like the mass. Above 500 grains, they don't like it. They become inconsistent. They're good for light arrows.
And the thing is, too, and I definitely wanted to ask you about this later on, but I'll just ask you now. Before I upgraded to better equipment, I started noticing, and this is even with a little bit lighter arrow, maybe like a 515 to 495, which I have killed deer with a mechanic, but
I have too.
It didn't pass
crap load of animals.
Yeah, like that buck right there on the wall is the deer I'm talking about. And it was a G5 mega meat, 18 yards. I thought the arrow was flying correctly. It wasn't. And hit him. He was quartered away. I hit him maybe a little bit high. And when I found him, the arrow was deep enough to kill him, obviously. It was, the broadhead was embedded in the offside shoulder. But I'm over here thinking, I'm shooting a heavy arrow. How come I'm not getting a pass through? Right. So, dude, long intro, long story. What is going on with you, man? What have you been up to before we start diving down the rabbit hole and stuff? What's happened in the life of Troy Fowler, man?
I've been fishing like crazy. I have a bad fishing problem. Like, it's bad. I'm getting ready to go on a tear. I'm going 7 days of speckled trout fishing. I think I've got a nilgai hunt crammed in the middle of that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Last half of February is going to be pretty busy. This time of year is really funny. If you haven't, I learned about year 3 of YouTube. I was really putting out content. Nobody listens to me in January, February, March, and April. It's actually a waste of time. So to put up stuff, and I don't do monetization. I mean, I monetize, but I don't care about that. I do not live on the YouTube Ferris wheel, and I don't care. I post when I want to post. So it's about every 2 weeks or so, and sometimes longer. So this time of year, what I do is I build a bunch of videos, and I'm already scheduled out to May.
Wow.
Just pre-scheduled. But I'll go out I have a local place that's 800 acres where I can shoot however far, and there's pigs and we have a range out there and all that stuff, and I can do a bunch of stuff. So I'm currently doing a lot of videos that we'll post, and I'm pre-scheduling them. So during the summertime, when the trout start running into the surf, all my videos post on their own, and I get comments. I go, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's great." We're working on an upgrade to the Ranchfairy broadhead. That'll be coming out probably in 2 months or so, just making it sexier and doing a couple of things that I wanted tweaked. And then I just partnered with Magnus on the Magnus single bevel. And I did a bunch of videos on that. And that's that guy right there.
Oh, yeah.
They're 150 grains. Mike Somm is a great guy. I've been bothering him to put out a single bevel. And he just didn't want to make a single bevel stinger, and he didn't want to do this and that. And we started talking, and he decided that shape was a good one. That's a really great broadhead for the price point. It's gonna be there like $50 a 3-pack.
Oh wow!
So at that price point, a good single bevel, almost 0.06 thick. My son cut the shoulder blade right off a pig with it, and killed the crap out of it. So, and the bone was exploded in the shoulder. So that's what I'm doing. And awesome. Stupid work.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Work's been kicking.
Yeah, right. Got to do that. So I don't think Bo Honey's ever going to pay the bills, but currently experimenting with. I'm going to do some. One of the things that has come out of. So I had the podcast live, whatever the hell those things are called, with Brandon, and I have James at Bow Disciples, and then MFJJ.
Yep.
And I'm trying to understand bows, and trust me, audience, I'm not as dumbass as you think I am. I just play that stuff up. I know a lot more about bow tuning than people realize, but there's questions that no one can answer for me. They have not answered. Mm-hmm. So I'm working on that myself. So what I'm going to do, I think, if I get bored, is I'm going to take my bow, which is currently tuned to shoot a 715 grain arrow that's got a tough head on the front. It's my Nilgai arrows. They're 700 pounds and big. And so I just built big boy arrows for them. And it is perfectly bullet hole tuned for that arrow. I'm going to put a 400 spine arrow on that bow, and it's going to shoot sideways. And I have been told by 3 different people who say they know what they're talking about, if I tune the bow, it'll shoot anything. Guess what? I already know the answer.
Yeah, I think I do too.
When I cut the fletchings off, when I shoot my arrow bare shaft and I shoot a 400 spine arrow bare shaft, the tear is going to be outrageous. And once again, I will say, I'm not doing this to be a butthole. I don't like the misinformation. Mm-hmm. It's not fair to the people who don't know any better. It is not fair.
Yeah.
And then the second part of that, and we didn't get into this, and then we're going to head back in your direction when I stop bitching.
Hey, you're good, man.
What people don't understand, where's Big Jake?
I was hoping you'd pull this out, man.
The Big Jake, my big arrow, it's got bad structural integrity. The tip broke off. The broadhead's about to snap off. It's terrible.
Hit a whale with it. It's all good.
But no one in the bow tuning world can tell me this. When we lean the cams, the first question, and I'm going to keep asking, when we lean the cams, are we tuning the shooter out of the bow or the bow to the person with torque and all that? Second is, I know for a fact that the bending rate of the shaft, when you shoot a soft shaft, it really bends and it flexes like that. It's like a guitar string.
Yeah.
And a stiffer arrow does not flex as much and doesn't guitar string down the shot line as far. So if I get a fletch-tuned bow shooting a 400 spine arrow to go fast at 70 pounds, I know it's still bending. Mm-hmm. And it's bending a lot. And I can't resolve that. So I'm going to have to do it myself because no one's going to answer the question because people aren't dumb. They just don't think about it like I do.
Yeah.
I've been exposed to aerodynamic scientists and people with PhDs and crap.
Yeah. Like,
they're like, yeah, the thing's bending all the way down the shot line. And if it's really bending, it's really bending. So
and you're losing energy when that happens, like a lot, right?
Yeah. My fear is, and we see this with the heavier stuff and the properly tuned arrows, that is on impact, they flex like a banana too. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not going to get too deep into this. I can talk about some stuff that make your freaking head pop off. And I know it's a fact, but at the simplest level, I'm not trying to insult you, it's just for the crowd, because I'll go in a hole and people will freaking fall asleep. A fast underspined arrow at impact, the point stops.
Yeah.
The whole thing doesn't stop. It's columnar loading, right?
Yeah.
So the point stops and there's a shock, and that's energy going somewhere.
Yep.
Well, guess what? The shaft bends. Well, the top of that curve in that bend is the direction the shaft wants to go. It is not in line with the broadhead anymore. I think that's why we see these crazy redirects of mechanicals.
Yeah, like the deflections and stuff people always talk about.
So I think the blades, I've done this on my own. The blades deploy inconsistently because they're not flat. The animals aren't flat. So say a quartering shot, the internal blades are going to deploy. The externals will not until they hit the meat, and then they'll start deploying. So you already have this cattywampus effect, and then the shaft's bent.
Yeah.
The top of that curve is the direction the shaft wants to go, and the broadhead's down here.
Yep.
So when you stiffen up, you get them flying, forward to center, blah, 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 you start to see stuff just whistle through. It's so satisfying now to just shoot stuff and the arrow skips 20 yards.
Yeah.
It's like they're not there. You just go boop and then flip. There's no question. And I remember, Bubba, I shot 25 years. I went to Africa with a 425 grain arrow and wounded a bunch of crap to death. Yeah. I would never do it again. I would shoot 600 on a water hole. Come on, man. It's 20 yards. But anyway, what other questions? Let's get back on track for you.
Well, so before we do, one thing that you we're just talking about is like how the arrow wants to go a different way. I've lived, and what you were saying about how now you just see them zip straight through. I've lived both. Like that deer I was telling you about at the beginning of this. It was crazy to me because like I'm expecting it to go straight through or at least stay going straight in. When I hit that buck, I watched it because I use lighted nocks. I watched the arrow kick left like a mule, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. I thought I gut shot him. Right. Like that's how far it moved. And then the last year I killed, because I've completely changed my whole setup. This was, again, a lot of tinkering over the past year. I'm running single bevel now. I've got 17 or 18% FOC.
Nice.
Dude, the last deer I killed zipped straight through, was buried in the dirt, and I've already resharpened that broadhead. Like if it was still deer season, I'd be ready to kill another one. And it was the craziest thing because I've never had that was my first pass through on any deer. Well,
yeah, I've had a lot of that's kind of terrifying to me. But I remember, like a lot of people think I'm just an arrogant ass who's a Neanderthal and says just shoot a telephone pole, it'll fix everything. They don't know I know about bear shaft tuning, talk about sharpening, talk about all this stuff. Yeah. But I remember seeing the arrows like fall out of them.
Yeah. I've seen videos
like
of that.
Like it was just like, oh, and you're like pass through. And now it's like skippity doop to doop, going sticks in a tree.
It's in the next county.
Right. And that's energy you can use when things go wrong.
Yep.
Right. So, and then secondarily, you're gonna see it. The deer don't run.
Yeah. That was the shortest track job I've ever had.
They don't, but they just don't run the same.
Yeah.
They just run off and wander around and fall over. But they're not hauling the male. But your comment that was the first passer you ever had, I've had a lot of people say that to me. I've had lots of emails saying, hey, man, thanks for helping me out. Talked to you in August. Shot a deer. Here's a picture. I thought I missed. I heard leaves. I didn't hear it hit the deer. I heard leaves in the background.
Yeah.
And they say, I think I shot over the top, like when you miss a target.
Yeah.
I heard the arrow skip.
Yeah, I mean,
and then I looked over and the deer fell over, and I was like, "Ooh, oh, okay, didn't miss."
Died from shock. No, I mean, I kind of misspoke a little bit. That was my first good pass through. The one before that was a pass through, but it was also a gut shot. And the reason I don't shoot mechanicals anymore because it opened up on me in flight. Yeah. So it's kind of crazy, man. Because like I said before, I first started listening to you a few years ago and built my arrows. I didn't build them right, but they were heavy. And after I had all that tuning issues and whatnot, I kind of, dialed it down a little bit. I think I was at I hunted at 450 this past season. I just got a new set of arrows. I'm running about 483,
Mhm.
and I'm probably going to go up in weight. I know you and I have talked about, what arrow build I should do for pigs, which would most likely turn into my, whitetail arrow.
Mhm.
Because in my opinion, and this is the thing I've always used to defend you whenever someone's like, oh man, you don't need that heavy setup. You don't need this. You don't. I'm like, dude, if it goes through a pig and
A deer's a cream puff.
exactly, if it goes through a pig's shoulders or the shield, or like you've done where they get shot in the head and it comes out like the bottom of
Yep.
the neck, or
Yep.
yeah, dude. I mean, imagine that on a whitetail. It would literally be 200 yards behind it.
I have a lot of
No?
people. This is a funny comment that you're making. If you have pigs, you need to build an arrow that will handle big pigs, and then don't worry about the deer are dead. You can
Mhm.
quarter into them, shoot them in the shoulder blade, break their freaking humeruses off, and snap them with good broadheads. Can't do that with a mechanical or some cheap ass broadhead, and bad arrow flight. But I've had these Western guys every fall. Hey man, I want to be able to hunt elk, and I want to be able to hunt deer, and I want two different arrows. And I'm like, why don't you just build an elk arrow?
Mhm.
Okay, I want to get a really light arrow so I can shoot 4. And I'm like, I literally reply, what in the hell are you thinking? You're going to build a light arrow to shoot 4 at a 700-pound animal, and
But a
then you're
600
going to
arrow at a closer
at
animal.
600
That's
grain arrow at a
200
deer.
pound. Yeah.
Yeah, but I want to be able to shoot 4. It's a 700-pound animal
It's
with
a big
bigger
animal.
bone structure and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, once I started smashing the pigs, I just never looked back. I remember Ed said that. He's like, man, I started shooting Cape Buffalo. I started Cape Buffalo and the Asiatics, and I was shooting back then. He was shooting like 900 grains, and he said I got used to the trajectory.
Yeah.
So I just went deer hunting with it. He goes, guess what? It kills them just as dead.
Yep.
But shooting a longbow, you don't want to change the trajectory because your brain's doing the math.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be like playing shortstop and then going to second. You're going to have to make an adjustment because it's not the same throw, right? So that's that. But yeah, we can build you a pig arrow, and that's not a problem. It's really an arrow flight and real broadheads thing.
Yeah. Well, and so the broadhead thing, you kind of opened my eyes to the single bevel game, because I always before was like, oh, I want the biggest cut, and then I tried that, and it worked, but it was a pretty far track job, and I just feel like there's too much.
Wound them to death.
Yeah, exactly. So we're partnered with VPA, and they sent us a bunch of the single bevels they have. Yep. I killed that one deer with the Omega they just dropped last, I think it was October or November. And now I'm not shooting anything else. I won't. Like, I do have a 3-blade solid fix from VPA that I'm gonna try just to see what happens. But that's single bevel.
You'll be fine. If you just can't hit a hard bone with a 3-blade. Any 3-blade on the earth is just 3 blades. They have offset blades. They do not have an opposing blade helping them. But if you hit them in the right spot, or you clip the shoulder blade, it's gonna smash them.
I have a story for you, and I'm probably going to feel like an idiot after I'm done telling you and hear your response. But
no, I've probably done it.
Well, probably, and that's probably. I know you have the answer to this. So this past season, I'm in the tree stand. I'm shooting a 460 grain arrow with a 3-blade fixed blade. It was the Q80 Exodus.
Okay.
I hear nothing but good stuff about it. I've seen a lot of my buddies use it, and it worked great for them. Full pass throughs, great blood trails, whatever. So this doe shows up at 25 yards, and she's quartered away. Draw back, get the pin settled, release it, and dude, it smacks her. I'll send you a photo of this deer. She's still alive, by the way.
Yep.
I'll send you a photo of this deer, and you're gonna say, how did she not die based off where the hole is at, where the wound's at? But when it hit, I heard a loud crack. So I'm thinking either the scapula broke and it just didn't penetrate through, or
you have the arrow?
No. So that's the thing. It stayed in her, but I never found the arrow. It didn't like wobble or anything on impact. It's a 300 spine. I was shooting 60 pounds at the time. Like, I don't think I was, under spine.
Yeah, that should be fine. The 300 on 60 pounds should be fine.
Yeah.
So that's the thing with the 3 blades. You experienced it. If you'd have missed by an inch lower, It'd go zipped right through her, and you'd have found her 65 yards later.
Exactly.
That's you. It's a great back to, you just proved me right. No,
yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
solid 3-blade heads are super reliable. But I tell people all the time, they said, well, we're going to try to shoot. That's why I made mine long.
Mm-hmm.
I have one.
Yeah.
And it's only 1 inch wide, but it's long. So you get more, you have less abrupt angles when it hits something. It's still got the same weaknesses of a 3-blade.
Yep.
I just said, if I'm going to make a 3-blade and endorse it, it's going to be long and skinnier. So it's got more of a penetration capability. But your story is exactly what I was saying. If you'd have missed 1.5 inches to the left or the right, you should have zipped through her and she'd have been deader than a hammer.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it was the thick part of that scapula at the very top. Because like I'll send you the
probably
photo
jumped the
after
string on you. You probably just didn't. Was it on camera?
No,
Yeah.
I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay, well she probably jumped you.
Yeah. See, that's the hard part, man, is like looking back, I don't feel like she did because she
but you
wasn't
have
at
no,
alert
you
or
can't
anything.
pick
But
it up. I've been absolutely damned amazed at video. It's unfreaking believable. In this year, if you don't start running camera for whatever, just get your phone and get a selfie stick and get it in the frame. Don't try to freaking make it awesome. Open it wide up and you're like the deer's coming in front of you. Just hit play. Make sure the numbers are rolling. I've done that a lot. And those are the ones you hit and you hear them squeal and they roll and they crash. And you look up and the thing's not running. You're like,
oh, geez.
But literally, to everyone listening to this, I encourage you heavily. First of all, give up on the camera if the shot's not there. Don't mess with that. Don't lose a deer, a shot. Time's too valuable. But if the deer's going to be kind of predictable, open the frame wide open because you can always zoom in.
Yeah.
Hit play, forget the camera. Whatever goes down, right? Yep. And then shoot. And God, I'll tell you a crazy story. My nephew was sitting at one of our blinds, the front blind is like super reliable. And he texts me, he goes, oh crap, I hit one back. I suck and blah, blah, blah. Well, the pig he pulled the shot a little bit, but the pig shot, like he shot and the pig just went forward. Like he just took off.
Yeah.
And he said, but I've got video. And I said, okay, bring it in. So he said, if it's hit bad, just leave it and we'll go later. So we had dinner and we were looking at the video. And on the video, you can see that it's not perfect. It's a little fuzzy, but you can see the lighted knock and the arrow hits and it actually redirected as it goes through.
Oh, wow. Because of the pig moving, right?
The pig was moving. And I said, you hit the spine. You hit a bone or something, but you just clipped it because he's moving. And the arrow, it didn't go sideways, but you saw it it was like real subtle. And it passed through like 10 yards. And I said, he's dead. You cut the aorta on the spine. And he's like, dude, that's a gut shot. I'm like, no, it wouldn't redirect if it was a gut shot. It would just go through the guts.
Yep.
Went out there and went 65 yards. But that was because he had video.
Yeah.
We would have found it the next day because the birds would have found it. But we didn't waste it, right? A few of them go in the pit. Don't mention that. But,
That's funny.
So
one of the things about you, man, that I, really find interesting, and I want to say you're one of the only ones, if not the only one in the industry that I've listened to, or that I've heard really, who has got the background that you have, is your anatomical background. When you talk about like the aortas and the veins and, all the stuff that you need to really think about when you're hitting the deer. Because I was listening to an episode you did today and you were talking about broadhead sharpness. And when it goes through the lungs, how a lung is like, spongy and all of that.
Pretty mobile too. They move around a lot.
Now you want your broadhead, and this is why I started, sharpening my own, is you want it to be as sharp as possible. So you actually cut like a artery because they're supposed to be like really rubbery.
So
right?
here's the input. Here's the big picture of that. Hang on.
Okay.
We're gonna make this happen. Lungs are like a sponge. Everybody's interacted with a sponge. You see all them little holes in the sponge.
Yep.
Those in a lung are called alveoli. They're little air sacs. And at that level, imagine a little balloon that oxygen molecules can go through and get into the bloodstream. There's zillions of millions of them. Okay. So if you look at a sponge and then we have arteries. Okay. Certainly cutting these off helps. But if a broadhead is absolutely terrifyingly sharp all through the lung, it's going to, at the nano level, we're talking millions, it increases the lethality because it cuts millions of things that are tiny.
Yeah.
Like the size of your hair.
Dang.
Like the size of a hair gets cut. Well, think about spaghetti full of air wrapped up in here with a bunch of little tiny balls on them. And you only cut this, which is lethal, but you don't cut those because you're not that sharp. You're actually more likely to, with a duller broadhead, to cut the big stuff than you are the tiny stuff. This stuff's liable to get out of the way. Now, if you push this out of the way because it's dull, and you don't get that, it's going to be forever.
Yep.
You are not lethal, as lethal as you could be.
Yeah.
It's sharpening broadheads is probably the most overlooked thing in the whole damned industry.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you about 90% of the super cool guys I talk to don't sharpen broadheads.
Well, because they're shooting mechanicals.
Or they just shoot stock. They just shoot stock.
Yeah.
I check everything. I'm great friends with Mike Song. And every damn one of his broadheads that comes in, I check. Yep. I don't care. It's my responsibility.
Yeah. You should do that.
I'm shooting the damn broadhead.
Yeah.
So you really need to be understanding that it's mentally, it's a ton of those stupid things that they put in the boba tea, whatever them bobas are.
Yeah, like those little jelly ball things.
Yeah, wrapped around caviar.
Yeah,
so fish eggs wrapped with spaghetti with bigger arteries in it, and you want to cut everything because it magnifies the damage.
So
it's exponential damage.
Would you say that the reason some guys, because I've heard the argument, like, mechanicals give better blood trails, but they don't penetrate as well. And then
right, yeah, my response to that is, okay, butthole, write down the next 10 you shoot and send me a report.
Yeah. And
they're not controllable.
That's what I was asking. Because, like, I'm basically looking at it the way you're describing it in my head is if you have a sharp broadhead, mechanical or fixed, doesn't matter. If you're able to cut everything you just described, you should get a better blood trail than if you have a dull broadhead that just kind of moves stuff out of the way, right?
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all.
Oh, okay. I'm just trying to understand, like, the
mechanical. No, I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because I do know how to sharpen now. Mm-hmm. Trust me, I learned in the last 6 years. I've shot a lot of crappy broadheads, so I'm in the crew, and I'm not trying to be a butthole. I'm just telling you my results, killing the shit out of them from now to back then is unbelievable. I sound like an arrogant butthole, and that's fine. But when I get a quarter-inch shot on a pig and I hit him right above the elbow, I actually aim for the offside bones.
Okay.
I try to break their shoulder. I often do, but about 50% of the time the arrow stays in them because you're pushing the rib cage against the humerus, pushing everything out. It just kind of pinches the shaft.
Yeah.
The impact side you're pushing in, and it's more likely to break. The other side goes like this as the broadhead hits it and forces it out, and the skin starts stretching. And it's actually like pulling against it. It's like elastic, right? So it's harder to break through. My goal is to get low and forward and kill them.
Yeah.
And I can't find any correlation between sharpness and blood trails.
Okay.
They seem to just happen.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you this. If you can get one really quartering away, shoot them here and have it come out right here, ho, take your shoes off and close your eyes. Because it's going to be real easy to find that one. The Jeff Solterre shot. He's one of my friends in Florida.
Yeah.
And he shoots a crossbow a lot. And he intentionally waits till their ass is almost towards him. And he shoots them. He's trying to get it to exit. He's aiming for here.
Oh, wow. Is that on deer or pig?
Mid the guts. And he's trying to get the broadhead to come out their neck.
Is
and when he does, the blood trails here are unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And that's on deer or pigs? Or both?
On pigs.
Pigs. God,
yeah.
That's insane. Yeah, I never even thought about that shot. to be honest. I always look
Right.
at broadside because
broadside is actually the worst shot on a pig on earth because they move around so much.
Mhm.
They're likely to quarter to you just fiddling around. I just lost one. I posted a video, and I was fiddling with the camera. Of course, I was in a blind. I hadn't been in a while. There was a tree, and they would stand behind the tree perfect, and then they would go around the feeder. And this pig finally got to the other side, and he was approaching this way. And I'm messing with the camera, and I look and I say, okay, he's broadside, and I draw, and I'm just in the zone, right? So I go, and I just didn't see him turn. He took one step.
Yeah.
I hit him right above the elbow, right on the crease. But he's quartering to, I'm talking like that.
Yeah, just barely.
It's a one-lunger. He's not dying. I mean, he might have died.
Yeah.
Very likely he did not.
That's crazy.
They're so durable.
Yeah. Because I've heard
I shot about a 280-pounder. I hunted this pig for like a year. He was so hard to get on. And he finally
the one that you shot and then he came back?
That was early on.
Okay.
That was way back, but this is a pig out here. The pigs out here on our place, the city traps them. So the ones that survive are smart.
Yeah.
The boars get huge. A friend of mine just killed one weighed 320 out there. Man. And I've got one I'm watching that's probably that big. Anyway, I was hunting this other one. He's probably pushing 300 knowing what we've got. Mm-hmm. And here comes this little pig, and then I see the big boy coming. I'm like, oh my God, finally. So I got the camera going. Hey, Dad, numbers are rolling. Everything's good.
Yeah.
He's pushing that pig off the feeder. And I draw, and right when I release, he took a step.
Oh, man.
I hit him 3 inches behind the crease. He showed up at another feeder 2 weeks later. He ain't dead. He's still out there.
That's so wild. Because those
the arrow went 30 yards past him.
Yeah. And they've got like built-in armor. I mean, I've seen a few of them, and their hair is super coarse. They're super thick. Mm-hmm. They have that shield. I mean, I haven't killed one yet, but down here in Georgia, we have millions. And the shield's not, don't be guffawed. The shield's a problem for blood trails. It's real elastic. So it just closes up, even on 3 blades and stuff. It doesn't want to. Muscles tend to open up because they're under tension. The shield is just like a rubber eraser. And when you stick anything to a rubber eraser, you pull it out, it closes right up. Yeah.
So that's why they don't bleed. That's why you need to kill them. And the trouble with feral hogs, and this has been a really cool thing, given what I've done with them. The next time you look at a rack of ribs, look how thin the meat is.
Yeah.
That's called the intercostal space. That's actually the space between the ribs. Imagine how wide your broadhead is.
Yeah.
And tell me if it's going to hit bone every time.
Dude, I did this the other day. We had ribs at my in-laws' place, and I was looking at them like, how? Like, of course I need to build something heavy because there's not that much space.
And there's not that much space, and they're short, and they're thick.
Yep.
And I'm pretty convinced when I first started doing this, and I didn't know how to sharpen it, and I wasn't shooting the greatest broadheads, but I got serious about trying to kill the big ones. I'm pretty sure I lost a bunch of them because the broadheads were dull once they entered the thoracic cavity.
So you're talking about like edge retention and all of that.
So they were sharp in the quiver, and then they hit the pig, and the pig ate them on impact.
Yeah.
Man. And so they just go further. Okay, you got I would get half an arrow in them. I would not get an exit hole. They wouldn't bleed. Pigs suck for bleeding. They suck. I hate them for that. And then they'd run off. I probably killed a few of them. I lost a bunch of them. I was 50% at one time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There's ain't nobody in the archery industry going to tell you that. But there was a time when I was specifically hunting big boars on our ranch. I was letting the little ones go past, and I was 50%.
That is crazy.
And I'd either kill them inside 100 yards or I'd lose them.
Yeah.
And we'd hunt, look for birds and everything.
Still didn't find them even with the birds?
Nope. They're not dead.
Oh, I got you. That makes sense.
I don't think they died.
Yeah. So since we're talking about pigs, and you know that I'm looking at going pig hunting this summer, let's just dive into the pig build, or I guess really the pig, deer, whatever I want to shoot build. Because right now, and this is what I've been struggling with probably for about a year, is I want to have something heavy with good FOC that flies right, perfect arrow flight, super sharp broadhead, but also is kind of fast, which is sort of why I landed on the 483. I'm shooting like 262, which is much faster than I was shooting last year. Perfect arrow flight, all of that. So what would you change if I'm at 483? It's a 300 spine arrow, 50 grains of half out up front with a 13 grain sleeve and then 125 grain point. If I'm going after pigs, what would you change?
I would get the 200 grain point and I would reduce your insert weight.
Okay.
I would go longer.
Longer.
Those 125s are short, little, blunt, hateful things. They're not good penetrators.
Okay.
I hate the fact that the single bevel guys make 125s. They look like they're little hatchets.
Yeah.
So you have a tiny blade that's an inch long. You don't have much length there. If one of them gets damaged, it's all of it. Because even the single bevel's damage. There's just, you can't predict that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm actually shooting. I'm going to shoot a TAC event, despite my freaking better judgment, because I shoot
You'll enjoy it. You'll have fun.
I'm shooting 580 grains, and I'm out to 70, and I still have a lot of room on my tape.
Wow. What bow are you shooting this year?
Huh?
What bow are you shooting this year?
I'm shooting Elite Remedy.
Okay.
I've had it for a couple of years. It's long. It's like 34 inches, which I love long bows. And for anybody thinking about buying a bow, do not buy a bow under 31 inches. If you have one, sorry, man. They're pieces of crap and super torquey and dumb. The longer bows are much more stable.
Oh, yeah.
They really are. They're just more forgiving. But the reason why I'm doing that is not, and this is why I'm going to help you talk through the pig thing and the speed thing. The parabola upon which this arrow flies, the trajectory curve is incredibly consistent.
Okay.
The arrows around 270 have a trajectory curve like a comma. Really? They shoot pretty flat, and then look at your pins. Do you shoot a slider?
Yeah.
Okay. You'll never see it. So if you look at your sight tape, it probably is real narrow at the bottom and it starts to open up as it goes to the top.
Yep.
That is aerodynamic drag.
Okay.
And that is the projectile is light and its inability to push the atmosphere out of the way. That is a NASA thing. That is a jet, rocket. This is not refutable.
Yeah.
People can bitch and whine about it. Somebody said 270 feet per second is magic. I just did a video on that. It's garbage. But there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
So I'm shooting this because this is a Gemini.
Okay.
It's 570 grains. It's 25% forward to center. Every single arrow is bare shaft tuned. All of them. All my TAC arrows are bare shaft tuned. That's a bloody one. Sorry, not that one. That was bloody. But this is my TAC setup. Every one of them has been bare shaft tuned. And I've got 1.5 inches feathers on the back to match the forward to center. And I'm doing that because of aerodynamic stability of the shaft itself.
Okay.
And I am seeing it's just, they behave. Like if I screw up, they screw up. If I get they just, it's beautiful to watch them in the air. I can't imagine they're going 230, 240, but the trajectory curve is more like this, and it's very consistent over distance. What people make the mistake of doing is they take their current pins and slider and they put my arrow on it, and yes, it launches on a different trajectory curve than yours does, and it looks like hell in a handbasket. However, when you put it on its own trajectory curve, they tend to fly like a rainbow. Yeah. Which you want. You do not want a comma. So what happens to lighter shafts is as they go down range, they're getting eaten up by the atmosphere.
Yeah.
and they slow down massively. I bet your arrow slows down from my lab radar testing probably 40% faster. You launch faster.
Yeah.
But you're losing speed at a 40% greater rate than I am. And what that does is it makes the arrow go like, it goes fast and then it goes like this.
Yeah.
And it makes it critical at distance.
Yeah. So it's funny you say that because I've watched that video probably 10 times because it's just so interesting to me to see the fact that it actually holds its speed at a higher rate than.
So that is understand there's two things going on there, and then we'll continue. I'm not trying to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
Things are it's slower. So mathematically, it is not dragging as much. The drag equation includes velocity squared.
Okay.
The faster you go, the drag squares for every foot per second faster. So it's already going slower, what literally doesn't drag. And then the second thing is it's heavy.
Yeah.
So it's fighting back.
Like
it's pushing.
Yeah.
Right.
So that blew my mind when I saw that. And then another thing, so I had built over the summer last year, I've got an archery range like 10 minutes from my house, right? And you can shoot out to 100. Honestly, you could probably shoot out to 200 if you really wanted to. You'd be aiming at the moon, but still.
Yeah, sure.
I was shooting a 435 grain arrow with 20% or 21% FOC, and out to 40, I was fine. Perfectly dialed, like, the sight tape was right on. I went to that range and shot at 55, and I watched that arrow go, and then just fall, like literally fall out of the sky. And I couldn't figure out why. I thought it was parachuting. I thought maybe too much FOC, but that didn't really make a lot of sense.
Drag is losing so much speed.
Yeah, that's what
MFJJ and I talked about that a little bit. We touched on it, and one of my friends is a long range rifle guy, and he says it gets funky at 700. Okay. Like, you really got to start paying attention to the little details. It could be just a 308, but you really need to know what the wind's doing. You need to know which direction the wind's going. You need to be, you've got to start, the bullet starts rolling over and stuff. There's details at 700 with a large bore rifle.
Yeah.
And MFJJ and I were talking about that, and we think it's 70.
For bows?
We think with a bow, there might be 60 or 70 where things start to come apart. Like this small detail. You see it and couldn't answer the question. I'm screwing with it and pushing. I didn't go to 700 because I know for a fact that thing's real lopey out there.
Yeah.
My hunting arrows are 40-yard arrows, my big arrows. And that's okay. I don't usually hunt outside of 40. I prefer 15. I'm good at 15. But I'm real good. But I chose that arrow because it is middle. It's got low speed erosion, but not the best, but a low factor for speed erosion. It's got a shitload of forward to center.
Yeah.
It's a 24% forward to center 250 spine arrow. So that's why I put feathers on it. I don't want any weight on the tail. I'm thinking about shaving the nocks and messing with that. I'm really getting crazy on it. I'm probably not going to do that, but
yeah,
it's a super expensive arrow, but thank God I have a sponsor. So, I mean, I got a 100 grain insert on there. I got the 200 grain point, and God, they fly, they behave. That's all I can, I don't know how to explain it. And I'm trying to figure out how. They just do what you ask. You shoot and they go to the target. And it's not hard. I don't have a peep. And I'm shooting 70 yards.
Well, I think you kind of answered it yourself because you're saying there's not, with the heavier arrows, there's not as much drag because it's not going as fast. So there's not as much disturbance. So, of course, it's going to fly better or behave really.
I was shooting in a crosswind the other day and it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Like, I've been going out when it's bad to shoot, not good. I go out there when it's blowing 30 and go shoot because that'll teach you something, right?
Yeah.
Ben Hogan I was a big golfer. I had a single digit handicap at one time. And Ben Hogan always said, practice on the worst days, cold, wind, wet. Don't hit on good days because that don't teach you nothing.
Yeah.
And so I've chosen that arrow based on the lab radar stuff. Everybody's like, no, you're the heavy arrow idiot. Of course you're shooting heavy arrow. I'm like, no. Drag, forward to center, aerodynamic stability, and feathers are really good stabilizers.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard.
In fact, if I wanted to be less draggy, I would shoot vanes. They're a little draggy. I've done that on speed testing. They're the draggiest thing.
So
They slow them down more than anything.
with drag, I kind of had a discussion with somebody. I forget who it was a while ago, but I kind of went. I bought that Arizona Easy Fletch that fletches them because all my stuff's left helical, and I think
You're shooting left helical.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Those are left. Don't tell anybody.
Okay. Nobody's gonna hear it, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, right.
No. So I was shooting a 5-degree left helical with two. I mean, I still have a few arrows that I'll shoot like that. I didn't notice anything really other than with those arrows I told you about. I built last summer.
To also contribute to your parachute at the end.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. I know
those things. The nice thing about feathers is they're bent by God, like the wings of the birds, bent. They already have helical. You can fletch them straight and they're bent.
Really?
Yeah, feathers are not straight. No, think about a wing. Like when you pull a turkey feather out, it's never straight.
Yeah, good point.
They can't fly if their wings pop up. True. So God put curves in them, so they go like this and they go flat, and they can lift off, and then they go up and down, and the wing actually goes curves like that and pushes against the wind. So feathers are actually bent. So this thing's almost straight fletched. I can't get it perfectly straight, but I've got them at 1 degree, less than 1 degree.
Yeah.
We did another test, and the arrows got crazy at 6 degrees.
Okay. So I'm kind of riding that fine line a little bit then.
Yeah, I really didn't see a significant advantage to spinning the hell out of them.
Okay.
We did not. We had some 14 or 15 degree fletchings we put on.
Jeez.
And the ass of the arrow went like this.
Yes.
It was crazy.
That's
what it did. So be planned. If it flies, it flies. Don't just, but I'm just telling you, we've had best results for broadhead flight and for consistency. Well, shooting bear shafts will fix a lot of things.
Yeah.
But fix almost all of things. But 1 to 3 degrees is the best thing we have found.
Okay.
Whoever's listening, if 5 degrees working, do it. I'm not telling you not to do it. I'm just telling you my results. Hyper spinning them, they're not bullets. So the way a bullet is weighted, they are weighted backwards from an arrow. Even a light arrow has all the weight in the front compared to the back.
Yeah.
Even 100 grains up front is more than the knock.
Yeah.
It's that simple math.
Yeah.
Bullets are backwards. All the weight's in the back. Think about the shape.
Yeah. I never even thought of it, honestly.
They're aerodynamically unstable. You have to spin them at like 20,000 RPM to get them to fly.
Okay. I'm following you.
Because I won't go into it, but the weight's in the back, not in the front.
Yeah.
And they have to be hyper spun to stabilize.
Okay.
That's why they spin at like 20,000 RPMs or some crazy number like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you spun them real slow, they wouldn't fly. They just go all over the place. Actually, I think they tumble.
I feel like I heard somebody say something about that one time. I don't really follow a lot of the bullet stuff. I mean, I have dove down at some back in a couple of years ago, but once I got into the arrow stuff and really went down that rabbit hole, I kind of that's all that I focus on now is just anything arrows.
So let's build you a pig arrow, and that'll be a deer smashing machine. What arrows are you shooting?
Right now I'm shooting Nimrod Archery Yetis. They are 300.
I don't know anything about that. So that's fine. Okay. If it's got a hole in the middle and it's got stick and inserts and stuff, you're fine.
Yeah. It's not FMJs, so I'm good.
No, you and I would have a problem. I'd have to turn off the damn video. Goddamn, that thing's a piece of shit. The worst arrow on the planet. Literally.
I agree.
I would go. How much draw weight and what's your draw length?
28 draw and 72 pounds draw weight.
Yeah, you're under spine to go heavier. You need to go. I would go get them to send you some 250s.
Okay.
Not fletched.
Got it.
And I would play around with them. You can either tune the bow and make it shoot the arrows, or you can fiddle around with the field points like I like to do and just see what happens. If you can use multiple different field point weights and get a tear down to 1/2 inch, you're good.
Yeah.
That's about, if you can get bullet holes, it's perfect. But if you can get to a 1/2 inch, that's the rest of it, right? That's when the fletchings are doing their job. The shaft's really good, and the fletchings make up for a little torque, or you're bent over and anything, if I don't have this and that and the other. And I'd run that thing up to about 550 grains. That is where I remember the video you're talking about. I shot a pig with a schwacker, and it basically bounced off.
Yeah.
It stuck in him about that far, and then he hit the feeder leg, and the arrow went in the air. The schwacker's bent. I don't have it. I don't know why I didn't keep the damn thing. Anyway, at that time, I was not convinced. My bow was shooting 280. I was shooting 400 spine arrows. I was just like everybody else. I was shooting mechanicals. I was doing okay, but not on the big stuff. Little stuff I could kill. Big stuff, it was a 50-50 shit show. But I had been messing with a 600 grain arrow and a tough head. And I said, okay, I just bounced off of that one. Went back 2 weeks later, the same exact pig in the same exact spot. And I smashed him.
Yeah.
And I never looked back. And I shot him on the crease with that schwacker. It was not a hard quartering shot. Nothing. It was broadside. It was a feeder. I just waited till he 17 yards.
Yeah. No hard bone or anything.
But I kept messing around. And 550 was when arrows started going through him like lightning.
Okay.
No sound. So 550 is your goal. 520, fine. 560 flies, shoot that. 515, fine. But that's when I'd get a 200 grain broadhead. I'd get this because it's long. The mass is good. They're thicker, etc. They have a longer cutting surface, and the approach angle's better.
Yeah.
They're long. They're just better penetrators.
Yeah.
I mean, you can shoot that. Whoa. Okay.
There it is.
That's a 150 grain tough head.
Okay.
Or is that a better penetrator?
That all day.
Like, what makes all the sense? Does it make any sense?
To me, it does.
It's a drill bit.
Because the other people.
We showed this to a mechanical engineer who doesn't bow hunt. And he said, that's a drill bit. And he named the name for it.
Yeah.
So he goes, yeah, it's got a Tonto tip. So it's cutting, it's starting to rotate, and then it's a drill bit. And he named the name, and I forgot the name of it.
Oh,
and he had never shot a bow. He didn't know anything about bow hunting. We were trying to get him to build broadheads for us.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, that's a drill bit. No problem. That would be a great penetrator on meat. I totally get it. Mechanical engineer. And then we have all these arguments in the bow hunting world. Makes it interesting. Yeah. I mean, even that's an upgrade, right? That's a Magnus. But you see the approach angle.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
Okay.
It's longer. So this don't whoever's watching, don't misunderstand. You got a little short cutting surface there, and you have a much longer cutting surface. That's just the camera's being weird, but
yeah,
that's a long. And if the blade were to take on damage at a 50% rate, which could possibly happen, there's half of that or half of that.
Yeah, I mean, that first broadhead's basically 50% of that second one.
Correct.
If you look at the length of it.
Right. And so the head you're shooting is real short.
Yeah.
Right. And so if it were to be damaged, I'm not knocking that broadhead. I'm just talking about the conceptual killing efficiency of the device you're slinging through the animal.
Yeah.
And the long stuff is on the meat longer. The approach angle's better. It's more like cutting with a knife as opposed to a hatchet. And it's been more practical. But if it's early in the year, you got a range, just go to a target. You can stand 10 yards from a target, 5 yards from a target, and shoot them. Bear shafts. You'll see the ones that are behaving. They'll just go, yunk.
Yeah.
And then if one kicks a little bit, so get the ones that shoot perfect, set them aside. Don't mess with them. Not mark that knock point, by the way. Okay. Whatever position that's in, mark it. Take your ones that misbehaved, turn the knock. Shoot them again.
Okay.
Get the whole set pretty damn good bear shaft. You'll be freaking amazed when you launch them.
Gotcha. I watched a video because I know do you still work with the bear archery guys? or the hunting public guys?
Yeah, sure. They're
Okay,
coming down in June, blah, blah, blah. Talk to Aaron all the time.
gotcha. I watched one of their videos. It was either on your channel or theirs. I can't remember, but where Aaron was doing exactly what you're talking about, where
Yep.
he was, and I actually think he had his already fletched up and stuff, but he was even saying like, all right, I'm shooting 6 of these. If one acts weird, he had like 1 or 2 that acted weird. He just turned the
He's
knock a
trying
little
to
bit,
knock.
and it
Mhm.
was perfect.
Yep.
So again, I tried that a couple years ago, and me and my monkey brain, I didn't know what I was doing. So I
Yeah,
just,
but you were shooting a soft spine arrow. You can't,
yeah,
it won't behave. Yeah.
yeah,
They're already launching inconsistently. So what happens is what you're doing with knock tuning is you're trying to get the bending rate. If it bends and it's at an angle like this
mhm,
and bends and launches, every arrow bends.
yeah,
And then the next one is horizontal and bends. They don't, everybody's like, yeah, they just bend horizontal. That is complete BS. And nothing's preventing them, one from going left and one from going right. There is
mhm,
nothing in the arrow platform that prevents it, one from bending to the right and one bending from the left. Think about that.
yeah. No,
There's nothing forcing it to go one direction.
yeah,
It can do whatever the hell it wants. I'm convinced some of them bend up, but I
really,
haven't catch that on video. But I'm just a dumb Neanderthal with heavy arrows. So what you want is you want the same exact launch condition,
okay,
right? And Big Mike Tanaka, the wizard, he said even if they're all flying a little knock right, but they're all doing it,
mhm.
when you fletch them, they'll all shoot the same because they're all doing the same thing.
And that makes
But
sense.
they're all over the place. Your launch conditions are not the same.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so. I do actually have one question. It just popped in my head. Have
Okay.
you heard about this new thing that a couple of these companies are doing? I'm not going to name drop anybody, but where they're coming out with these arrows that are spineless, where there's no
Bullshit.
spine.
I
That's
need
what
to get them.
okay,
There's
thank you.
no freaking way.
Yeah, that's what I was saying because I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. You need a spine in order for it to flex and everything else. I mean, it probably still would flex, but with the way that they're made now, and correct me if I'm wrong, don't they have? I mean, there's a weak side and a strong side, and the arrow bends to the weak side, right?
Theoretically,
Usually,
they have a seam,
yeah.
and the orientation of the seam has a lot to do with arrow flight.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever built a custom fishing rod, but what you do with a fishing rod blank when you're building one is you put the thing on the ground, you go like this, you bend it, and you roll it in your hands, and it'll go whoop, and that's the seam. A lot of people put the eyes on the seam.
I got you.
Some people put the eyes on the bottom, soften it up. So you can actually do that with your own arrows. You can go like this and just roll them in your hand, and you'll find the seam. And all of a sudden it'll just jump in your hand.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to do that.
Yep.
See. You're teaching me a lot of stuff, Troy. You're teaching me a lot, man.
Oh, you don't want to know. That's what I was saying about the MFJJ stuff and all that stuff. They have no freaking idea. And I'm not knocking MFJJ. I haven't met anyone in the industry who knows as much about the because of the people I've met. Like there's a bunch of PhD people and people who do not want to be bothered with this.
Yeah.
But they help me because I'm stupid and I put it out there. And they've taught me about getting this thing right a ton.
Yeah.
And the industry folks think that you can just get the bow tuned and make it shoot the arrow and the arrow's fine.
Mm-hmm.
They are completely and utterly wrong about the penetrators. They don't study impact. They know how to, I guarantee you they know how to fly it there.
Yeah.
And I've seen great arrow fly out of these people. I've not seen wobbly arrows, but they're not studying impact.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks because that's all Ed did. Dr. Ashby, who they just say, oh, you're a freaking idiot, da da da. It's only 30 years and like 5,000 shots on meat.
Yeah.
And every animal on the planet. He killed 2 rhinos with a bow. And he's so cool. And he studied impact.
Yeah.
What does it take to make a stick survive impact? And everybody just bashes on him for it.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to Dr. Ed Ashby on the Meat Eater podcast of many years ago, however long ago it was. And he had to have been the first time when I was learning about this whole archery stuff and arrows or whatever that I actually heard about arrow flight. penetration, the 12 steps that he
Right.
And
Right.
I'm like, dude, there's way more to this than I ever thought there was.
Oh, you don't even want to know.
Yeah.
You don't want to
It
get
blows
into
my
the
mind, dude.
oscillation rates. You don't want to know that. Well, you're gonna know. When your arrow is bending, you realize it's spinning.
Mm-hmm.
That means it's flying like a jump rope, and you're jumping rope sideways.
Yep.
That's exactly what it's doing as it starts to dampen.
Yeah.
They say it takes 100 yards for it to dampen.
See, I heard
You're never shooting an arrow that's not down or that's stamped out.
So,
Honey.
One thing that I watched a video on this, and I forget who did it because I watch these types of videos all the time, man. I'm always trying to learn what I can. And
yeah, sure.
They did a test and said that the archer's paradox isn't, I guess you could say, over. Basically, the arrow doesn't find its stability until 19 yards. Have you tested that and seen if that's accurate, or is it closer?
I would have to understand what their definition of stability is.
So basically, like, you know how when you shoot the arrow and it's kind of wobbling back and forth a bit, or up and down, whatever, wherever the dynamics finds that. They were saying that at 19 yards, you'll get that wobble and then it stabilizes and it's just spinning. And then you have the leftover energy from that wobbling going into.
I've heard it's 100.
100. Wow.
Yep. They're still resonating. Now, getting the fletching behind the point at 19 yards makes a lot of sense. And I can confirm that Ed told me, now this is a longbow, but he bare shafted everything. So he didn't stabilize any slower, or compounds a little faster. Yeah. But when you do a longbow right, they stabilize like crazy. You'd cut them down. You don't even want to know about that. I've thought about doing a video on that. I would get calls about their 1/16th of an inch cut that's driving some OCD guy crazy. I'm not doing it. But he said, I preferred to shoot the buffaloes over 15 yards because the arrow was more stable.
Okay.
So 19 it's not that much different, right?
Yeah.
And our arrows are hauling ass. So it may be more of different flexing or whatever, right? But he said, yeah, 10 yards I never got as good a penetration because of arrow flight.
Yeah.
He said the arrow was still doing this, and it just kind of hit and got a little redirected. You never see it. It just wouldn't penetrate. But he's told me that. Yeah. I preferred 15 to 20.
Okay.
And he said, I got way better penetration. And he said that's one of the reasons why we did it at 20.
Yeah.
It was fair to all the arrow platforms and the bows to have a stable. It made it more consistent.
Yeah.
Because he knew that at 10, you could see all kind of crazy stuff.
See,
nobody really hunts at 10.
Yeah. You know? I mean, I've had one shot at 10. Well, that's not true. I missed a deer at 10. I could have taken a 5-yard shot last season, but didn't for some stupid reason. Dude, if I told you about my season, man, it was a great season. Don't get me wrong. Learned a lot, saw a bunch of deer, killed 2, wounded 1. Not proud of that. But I had more opportunities I didn't take that I should have. So it's just a learning curve from that. But I heard a rumor when I was at the bow shop the other day. I don't believe it. All right. Because I've literally listened to Ed talk about his study. And he put more time into that study than I've been alive. I'm only 28. So I really firmly believe everything he says.
Yep.
What I was told is that everybody promotes that, Dr. Ashby's studies was all with the longbow or with the recurve or traditional or whatever. But really, the truth was it was with a compound.
No, it was. So he had a compound early.
Okay.
And here's a funny thing about being a scientist. He knows all about the aerodynamics. He knows all about aerodynamic drag. He can talk your ear off and take a PhD in engineering in a rabbit hole.
Okay.
He can hang. You can't measure a pass through.
True.
So it's just a pass through.
Mm-hmm.
So he intended to bring the compound back, which is what we're doing at the foundation now. Rob is now doing the study with an 80-pound Matthews and repeating it.
Jeez.
Make sure nobody can talk shit, right?
Yeah.
We're shooting 80 pounds, right? And then they've just done Argentina, buffalo, and then he's done Cape Buffalo twice. He's going hippo and croc hunting this year.
Hippo?
And hoping to test on the hippo.
Hippo?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
He's got like a 1,200 grain or something. It's just massive. Anyway, because the compound was more efficient and passed through with the Ed arrows, You couldn't measure anything. You literally have to catch the arrow. That's one of the advantages of the buffaloes. Everybody's like, well, he shot big animals and it's dumb. Nobody's hunting those. No, stupid. The target's got to stop them or you can't measure 3 inches difference.
Yeah.
You can't tell what happened.
Yeah. If you get a pass through, you have no idea. You just know it was a pass.
You have no idea what happened. You really don't, right? But if you change broadhead platforms and one penetrates 4 inches deeper and you shoot it 8 times and it keeps replicating, which is what you have to do on animals. You can't ever make the shots consistent. So you have to put a bunch of them together and average them. Right. Yeah. And then buffaloes are big, so you can shoot them a lot. But the compound was shooting through them with an end arrow because there's more velocity and more impact energy. Yes, he would tell you absolutely. However, he said, with my 35 pounds of kinetic energy, I was shooting through them hunting.
That blows my mind. 35 pounds.
40, something like that. That's how low the kinetic energy is. And he was shooting 3 buffaloes with a longbow. And like it was nothing. He did not expect it to happen. Like he was like, yes, it's going through those stupid things.
Didn't he say, and I might be getting him mixed up with Fred Bear, because I know Fred Bear at one time said, supposedly, that he had to draw 3/4 of the way back because he knew how far the arrow was going to go through the sheep that he was hunting? Or was that Ashby talking?
I think that was Fred, and I think he had to shoot over a rock.
Okay.
So I think he short drew. I've heard a story like that about Fred, and I think he had something in the way, like a rock, so he just short drew it and loped it over the top. That's how in tune he was with his stick.
God, that's crazy.
No, it's one of the advantages of shooting a stick bow. Running shots and stuff are totally practical. It's just a shotgun. You just swing.
Okay.
You practice.
I've never shot one, so I don't know.
If you practice with a longbow, like cut foam targets and roll them, we used to do it all the time. Roll them on the ground. It's amazing. I killed 2 pigs, 2 black buck antelope, and a sheep running.
Jeez, man.
And I either would miss or absolutely 10 ring them.
Huh.
I never hit one. I shot 1 black buck antelope in the butt, and I was just being stupid. And killed the hell out of it because it cut the arteries off and didn't go anywhere. But run-in shots, I've had either missed by a mile or just smoked them.
Okay.
I haven't done a lot. But I shot a trad bow for 10 years and flint points and all that.
Yeah.
That was really fun. Hunting with flint points, hunting javelinas with napped points was great. Killed the hell out of them. Just smoked them.
That's got to be so much, because I've got buddies of mine that do trad, and they tried to get me into it, and they're like, yeah, it's fun, it's great, but I missed a deer at 7 yards, and I'm like, man, I can't. Me personally, I can't do that. Like, I just can't. I'd be so mad knowing I have something that could hit it at 7 yards. You know what I mean? But I don't knock it. Like, I got a bunch of buddies that do it. We get invited to the trad shoot around here every year. And I unfortunately haven't been able to go yet, but it's still interesting to me, because it's like, not even 100 years ago, that's all they could use. So they were killing them back then like that.
Yeah. So let's go back to your arrow. 250 spine, same sleeves, same 75 grains.
Yep.
200 grain point. Be done with it.
Got it.
Then you'll probably be about 560 if I'm doing it in my head. And don't worry about it. Redo your tape and don't sweat it. But bear shaft every one of them.
Okay. To
the best of your ability, and sit there and knock tune them. You can shoot and practice your stupid form and freaking act like your underwear matches your goddamn release strap, or you could spend 45 minutes shooting bear shafts that you intend to fletch and waste a bunch of time getting them to fly. And like I said, don't get too damn hard on yourself. If they're all flying left sideways, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
But if you've got 3 or 4 of them that really plunk in there, you'll see it. They just go, they don't shake or anything. It's kick ass. And then you'll have a couple that do this and that and the other.
Yeah.
Like I said, pull the good ones, set them aside. But what I do, I'll tell you exactly what I do.
Okay.
Every shaft's got a label.
Okay.
I turn the nocks and I put the label straight up so I don't forget. I'm stupid and I'll forget where the knock was. And I start the bear shafts label up.
Okay.
And I guarantee you the labels are arbitrary. They just put them on the machine.
Yeah.
And I'm right-handed. So I tend to turn the shaft left.
Okay.
So shoot them all, three or four of them shoot fine, set them aside, and mark them with a Sharpie on the knock, even though it's on the label. Mark them anyway, and mark them up here.
Okay.
Because you'll wear them off. Fiddle them with the shafts, and you won't know where your knock tune is. In case you put lighted knocks in, you can put them in the same position.
Okay.
Take the ones that misbehave, shoot them again. Make sure it wasn't you. And I really would do 5 or 6 at a time. Don't do 12. You'll wear yourself out.
Yeah.
And then you're bad shooting, and it's your fault. And just meticulously go through them. And just quarter turn. And when they all shoot, mark them, and fletch them on that mark. And you won't believe it. You won't believe how good they shoot when you get the shafts consistent across the set.
Okay.
And then you just screw broadheads on, they fly. There's none of this broadhead tuning BS and all that stupid stuff.
See, that's an argument we had last summer. Josh came out with a video talking about, paper tuning when you're doing fixed blades is pointless. And I think he was talking about bare shaft tuning. And
yeah, you can't bare shaft a broadhead. They're too much lift. It's a wing on the front. Yeah.
What he was saying was that if you intend to shoot a fixed blade, don't even worry about bare shaft tuning. Just throw some fletchings on there and you can tune it that way.
I've not found that to be true. I've not found that to be true, but he owns a shop.
Well,
it's easier that way.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking
I'll
what he
get to know
said.
him. I'm going to shoot tack with him, so that'll be fun. But I have not found, and I am as average a shooter as everybody that's your friends and mine.
Yeah.
He may be, and I told John Dudley this. He rattled off a bunch of damn names I'm supposed to know. I didn't know one of them because I fish a lot. I watched Gerald Swinnell talk. He's awesome. Gerald Swinnell in one of the videos I was watching saying, a bass has either got a mouth or he's laying on it. And both of them will get in the boat. So jack them when you feel them hit it. I love Gerald Swinnell.
Gerald's awesome.
Yeah, he's fantastic. So Dudley rattled off this group of names, and I said, okay, well, I don't know who that is, but I will assume that they are the best shooters in the world. And you're one of them. And he is. I wasn't even trying to blow sunshine up his ass.
Yeah.
I don't care. He's a great shooter.
Mm-hmm.
And he probably has like an accountant's mind. He can repetitively do things like I can't.
Yeah.
I guarantee you attack. I'm going to shoot 10 targets to get bored and break 5 arrows because I don't care. Shoot something in the head or something. Just dicking around. And I said, that's great. There are guys who throw the baseball 100 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. There are NBA players. You got this Caitlin, what's her name, at Iowa State or whatever, launching it from half court. She's a freak. Jeez. Have you seen that? Heard about that girl?
Nah, I don't really follow any sports except NASCAR. And
she's a huge thing. So there's this chick that's plays for like Iowa State, and she's shooting from 5 feet behind the 3-point line, and just boom.
Oh my God.
She gets 10 rebounds a game, 10 assists, and scores like 30.
Jeez, sounds like a Michelle Jordan.
From everywhere. She just shoots from everywhere, and she drives. But anyway, she's a freak. Not everybody's doing that.
Yeah.
And I tried to make that point, Dudley. He's a little bit spends too much time breathing his own exhaust fumes. But you can't compare those guys to us.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand his customer base. We're just out here trying to figure it out. And he was basically like, well, that's not how you should do it. And I said, okay, well, guess what? About 95% of people, I told this to MFJJ too, they're just trying to figure it out, man. And I'm trying to help them.
Yep.
So he may be an incredibly consistent, perfect draw, whatever that stuff is, dude. I'm not.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take me, and I promise you I'm quite repeatable. Even if I'm making mistakes, I'm probably doing the same mistake over and over again because it's kind of the same position, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to make the best, most consistent set of arrows that fly for me. And then I've never had broadhead problems after that. When I started, I hate getting a set of arrows because I know
do it over again.
No, I know. I've just fletched them and shot them, and you just see them. And once your eye starts to pick it up, you see this. It's a little bit, and you go, God. My friends come to the ranch, some of my best friends, and they start shooting. Like, man, they're shooting good. I'm looking at them, going,
no, they're not.
oh, that is, dude.
Yep.
Come on. But so what happens to you is it imprints on you. And as long as it's accurate and they're getting close together, you think your flight's good because you're correlating the impact with flight.
Mm-hmm.
and it may be flying a little, they may be all flying a little sideways.
Yeah.
You get used to that. And you've never seen one that really. Now I see when they're not flying good.
Yep.
I see that, or I see a gust of wind. I'll shoot, and I'll see the shaft, and I'll just see it wiggle. And so I'm shooting on top of a hill right now at 100 yards, so the wind's always blowing uphill over there. That's at least my excuse. And I couldn't believe it when I finally did it.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to do it, man, because and I know what you're talking about with like the wiggle and stuff. I've had people point that out back when I had my old setup. This setup so far with the arrows I've got, I haven't seen that. I have
just do it for your own sanity, man. Just get 6 of them.
Oh yeah, I'm going to
and compare it. And do you have another fletching tool that's not so hyper rotational or whatever?
I don't.
Okay, so just shoot that. It'll be fine. Okay. But it'll be fine because they'll launch good. Yeah. But just do it. Get 6 and get it. And what I would do for you is I would get 150 and a 200 grain point.
Okay.
And I would see if they bear shaft better, one or the other. Because you're changing the bending rate. You're literally changing the spine of the arrow when you change the point.
Yeah.
Because it's pushing something heavier or lighter.
Yep.
It's really, really cool and totally verifiable. So I'd get 150. I'd get a 200 grain point. This is easier. 175 is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And I'd shoot both. Just shoot bare shafts. Just play around.
Okay.
Don't overdo your form or make it unrealistic for when you're hunting. Just draw it back and, and send it, right? And see what they do.
Okay.
And fiddle around with noctuning. Maybe just one.
Yeah.
Go out there and just figure that out and get one to shoot. And you don't have to have paper. You just need to be at a target at 10 yards. I do it in the garage all the time.
Okay.
And you'll see it just, and it'll be dead. It'll be dead in the target. Like it'll just dead.
Yeah, I'm glad you said the distance because that was one thing I was gonna ask you is when you're doing this, like how far are you? Are you 10 yards, 20 yards,
I'm about 8 or 10 yards. It doesn't have to be far.
Gotcha.
You're just checking for consistency across the set.
Okay.
And then fletch. And I have a video on fletching for nocturne. You got to make sure that you're gonna you put I shoot the knock mark up.
Okay. You
can shoot it left or right. It just has to be the same. And it has to be in the position it was in when you shot it. So it's just easier. I'm looking down on it. Let's mark the knock, right? So you might lose some fletchings when you start doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure when you fletch them that you're not fletching them so in an orientation where they can hit the cables.
Yeah. That's something I've had to deal with this new bow is getting close to the cables and changing how it,
You can shoot short fletchings, but you want tall fletchings. You don't want long fletchings. That's one of the key things. If you're going to get a shorter fletching, get it pretty tall fletching. Okay. Tall helps, long doesn't help as much. But you need to orient them. You need to find out you fletch one and put it on. Don't waste a bunch of fletch. Don't do a bunch of them and then find out I shit the bed. So do one,
okay,
and put it on your bow. And if you can, I've had to do this when I was using one of those. I have a Bitzenberger now. Take it out of Noctune,
okay,
fletch it, and put it back in.
Okay.
You can fletch the fletchings where you want them, and then turn it back, and the fletchings will come back. You'll have to mess around. You'll lose some fletchings if that's the case. I had to figure it out. That's why I shoot 4 fletch.
Okay, I wanted to ask you about that. I've heard you mention before, you prefer 4 fletch. So like for everybody listening, if they're going to start doing these builds, and for me as well, would you what orientation or what, I guess, fletching number do you recommend for?
I shoot 4 because then it's always open to the cables. You never have a cock feather pointing at the cables.
Yeah, I have noticed that. I built a few of those 4 fletch.
Never happens.
It was amazing. Like I didn't have to worry about it at all, no matter what.
You don't have to worry about it with 4 fletch ever. Secondarily, despite noctuning, if you have to do a follow-up shot, you can just put it on.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be in the right orientation. On a 3 fletched arrow, it's possible if you were looking and you grabbed one out of the quiver and you got a deer walking, let's say it's wounded and it's walking, you don't want to lose it. So you put an arrow on, it could be possible that the vein will be kicked out to the cables and then you shoot an arrow and it's all over the place.
All messed up.
So I prefer 4 fletch for that. It's because of Ed. Ed said the buffaloes get a little cantankerous when you stab them with a stick. So 4 fletch is better because you can look at them while you put it on the string.
Yep. Ed knows what he's talking about, man.
I was like, man, didn't you have a 500 nitro behind you? He goes, not always, but a lot of the time we did.
That's so wild.
Yeah, Ed's the best, dude. He's so great. I'm going to give you his number. You need to call him.
Yeah,
he won't he doesn't do video stuff. You'll have to do a audio, but
call in kind of thing.
He might be able to now. He just got a new computer, but he's the nicest guy. When you call him, he'll be like, "Oh yeah, man, wow!" Like he's known you forever. Like there's no butt sniffing with him or anything.
Yeah.
The first time I met Dr. Ed, I was doing videos. I had about 15,000 subscribers or something. It was running pretty good. It was before I met the hunting public. And I got an email, and it says, "Hey, I want to talk to you, Dr. Ed. Call me."
That's all it said.
And I replied to the email, and I said, "You're talking like you're Ed Ashby, right?" He goes, "Yes, call me. I told you to call me." I was like, "Okay." So I call him. He goes, "Hey, man, blah, blah, blah. Love your stuff." Blah, 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 and just starts rattling. And he and I were fighting for air, you know?
Yeah.
And he's the nicest. You got to come to the ranch, hang out with us. We're talking about doing something. And it was the foundation. I was a board member for the first year. And then I backed out of the membership because I got sponsorships and I didn't feel like it was fair for a nonprofit to have industry paid people. So I backed out, but I'm still a consultant and hang out with those guys.
Yeah.
But anyway,
feeling it.
I show up at Ed's. His buddy Billy's there with him. I open the door and Ed pulls out a pistol and there's a target in front of him and he shoots it like 6 times. And he goes, "Are you a salesman?" And I said, "No, sir." He goes, "We shot the last guy." That was how I met Ed Ashby.
Dude, that's so awesome.
Oh, it was the best. Bing, bing,
man.
bing, bing, bing. "Are you a sales guy? We shot the last guy." Oh, they were laughing, woo, drinking whiskey. It was freaking great. So he's the best. And I'll send you his number. You need to call him. Ed's older, and he's not in the best of health. And we need to get him. I want to get him on as much social media entombed forever as we possibly can.
Yeah, because like I said before, I had the argument with guys all the time. I literally have to defend, and I know I'm not shooting like, a bone-breaking threshold arrow right now, but it's still backed by science. You know what I mean? And like, I hate saying that.
That's my tack arrow. It's a scientific arrow. It's not because I shoot heavy arrows. It's because of what aerodynamically I'm shooting, right?
Yeah.
And once you get to 550, God, 600's awesome. I'm telling you, it's a different planet. Perfectly bare shafted set of 2 arrows at 600 grains.
Mm-hmm.
Deer are freaking hilarious. Whatever angle, aim for the heart, send it with a single barrel. They're dead. It's such a rock.
I'm gonna have to try it, man.
No, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
It sounds, because like I told you before, I've had penetration issues before, and that really kind of bugged me about it. And I remember reaching out to you one time and asking you like, "Hey, so I'm shooting the mega meat, and I'm or the sever or whatever it was at the time. My arrow weight's like 525. Isn't it true that if the arrow is heavier with good FOC, that with mechanical it should penetrate better than a fixed blade, but on a lighter arrow?" And you were like, "No, dude, that's not how this works." I was like, "Oh," and then you explained everything to me. I think you probably sent me like 5 or 6 messages, and I was at work, and I was like, crap, dude, I don't have time to answer this.
Yeah, right.
And so I went back and read it, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. So
drag on the meat more.
Mm-hmm.
So the blade angles are so abrupt. The harder you push, Newton comes into play.
Yep.
So the harder the broadhead pushes, the more the tissues push back. So it probably helps, but it's not the astronomical difference that you would expect.
It's not like a game changer that people would think it would be.
Mathematically speaking, well, outside of the fact that the blades never deploy equally, which is a disaster. Outside of that, let's just pretend that never happens, which is BS because it happens all the time. The more you're not gaining 40% in momentum, by the way. The more momentum you put on the target, the more it pushes back because the penetrator is very inefficient.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the mechanical thing is. So what you're doing is you have a super low energy projectile and you want something that uses that energy at the highest level. It's that simple. So that's why you have the cut-on contacts. And I'm not against the 4-blade single bevels either. We haven't had any trouble with them. Like my head has bleeder blade option in it. The Ranchfairy head, the tough heads do. A few of them have come out with small bleeders in the back. Not as wide as the main blade. That's a stupid move. That's a big 4-blade head, but just something to open the hide, right? Yeah. A little bit. I don't think it matters, and I guarantee it don't matter on blood trails. But if it makes you feel good, hey,
do it.
Whatever. Get out your heat gun, check your temperature, see what's going on. Let's see, 92.5 apparently. My hat's cooling me off. So, it's just a wild deal. There's so much to it. There's so much to it between the bow and the target that's overlooked by the industry, and it's kind of sad, but it gives me a lot of content. Yeah, nobody wants to go there. Everybody wants to do bow reviews and act cool, get matching camouflage, talk about stupid crap, and do broadhead testing and ballistic Joe, which is terrible, and all this crazy stuff to get the clicks and be cool. I don't care about that.
Yeah,
I don't give a hoot in hell.
You touched on a couple things. I got 2 more things I want to ask you before we wrap this up, because I don't want to hold you for too long. But one thing I've heard you talk about is an issue with mechanical broadheads is some of them on the packaging say, what is it, like 55 pounds is the required weight, I guess, for it to open.
I'm getting a Diet Dr. Pepper. Keep talking. I'm hearing you.
Have you figured out like what that number means? Because to me, and you've talked about this before, is when you've got a broadhead and those blades open up, you're losing so much energy just in that alone. When they hit the animal, that energy dumps so much, you get like, what, only 20 foot-pounds after that?
Yeah, right. So there's a lot of people who are pro-mechanical, pro-fast, blah, 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 talking about the kinetic energy they're driving. Mm-hmm. And I didn't print that stuff. The companies do.
Yeah.
They say we recommend 45, 55, one of them said 60 pounds of kinetic energy. Here's the rub, and I said it on the video. I don't know if that means deployment or pass-through.
Okay. So you still
in their defense, they probably know that it's not passing through.
Yeah.
They're pieces of crap, and it's total marketing. So I'm going to slam them with that. But it would be cool if they would define
what it means,
what you get for 65 pounds of kinetic energy.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of bows shooting 90.
I'm not. I'm at like 70, and this is at launch. I'm at probably 75 with the arrow that I'm shooting.
80 is real normal for average people.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. So you are literally being told by the packaging that 65% of your kinetic energy is going to be absorbed by the penetrator.
Mm-hmm.
And you got 20 to go.
I don't even think
I can't believe nobody's talked about that. It's probably because I don't give a shit at all. I just want to know what's true.
Yeah.
And if you want to be a cool YouTuber, then you don't say stuff like that because you're not cool. And then you're not going to get bows. Like there's not a bow company that's going to touch me. Right. They're not going to support me because I'm a freak. Seth's kind of crazy. So I have an arrow deal with him. Mike Somm makes fixed blades. I've made a huge impact on his business and a couple other companies, but I'm not going to get a lot of sponsorships. There's nobody's going to touch me because I'm so controversial, despite the fact that I'm spitting facts. The damn package says 55 pounds. Yeah. My bow shoots 80, whatever. Subtract those two things. It's pretty simple math.
Yeah. I can figure
we're
it out.
Between 25 and 30 pounds to keep going. Less than half. Guaranteed by the package.
Yeah. That's what blows my mind.
Oh, that's awesome. I got 10 foot-pounds more than that. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. I just because the thing that bothers me, man, with the, I'm not going to say the hate that you get. I'm going to say the pushback. Because I really don't hear a lot of hate.
I smash people. I mean, I know I get on the sidelines and I don't do the message boards and I know I get smashed out there.
But they're not trying it, is the thing.
Nobody's doing it.
That's the thing.
I've shot 400 animals and I never miss and never had to track one more than 20 yards. Okay, well, you're full of shit, but
yeah. So the third or the last thing I guess I wanted to ask you, I've heard you talk about it and I know I've heard you get really kind of amped up about it, is the testing medium that all these guys on YouTube are using. Now, the majority of them use, the ballistics gel, which everybody by this point knows that's not accurate. You can't test with that because it's not comparable at all to a living animal. But I saw one video a buddy of mine made where, in my opinion, just based off the description, it kind of made the most sense and almost seemed like, I'm not going to say the perfect test medium, but it was different than everybody else. So what he did is he took, if I remember right, he took some really thin plywood, put it behind a setup like a deer scapula behind the hide, behind the plywood box that he made was filled with Jello, and not like thick, one piece. It was like chopped up Jello, just really, easy to move through. And he did that on both sides. And when he shot through it, he tested a 460 grain arrow going like 300 foot a second or something like that. And I think a 650 or 670 grain arrow going to whatever, right?
220 probably. Yep.
It was a lot slower. The difference in penetration on that was an inch.
Right.
So when I saw that, I was like, oh, but a medium like that, I mean, do you think that would be comparable to an animal, or is it just?
So I've asked Ed about this, and he said, trust me, I tried, because I could accelerate the testing if something gave me the same result. He said I would shoot the buffalo and shoot the medium. It was never
totally different.
It was totally different.
I got you. So there is no
good and bad too.
Yeah.
Like it may over penetrate the surrogate.
Yeah.
And it might under penetrate on the buffalo. It's not always in favor of the buffalo.
Yeah.
The buffalo is harder on the damned arrows than any surrogate target is, because it's so variable. So one of the challenges is the more consistent you make the target, the worse the test is, because it's going to give you very consistent results. Our target that we are shooting is completely inconsistent and often moving.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
So you can't compare anything yet. Nobody's made. There's some of these ballistic dummies that have rib cages and stuff that look pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it'd be interesting to set it up. So I did that one. I got some heat from one of the pros who got on a rant and was making fun of me and doing memes for like a year. Big time guy.
Yeah.
Matthews guy. And he was posted all these stupid pictures shooting foam. And on the sidelines, I just didn't engage. I was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll get to that. On the sidelines, one of his minions starts whacking on me on Instagram on the message stuff.
Yeah. Keyboard.
And that test is completely invalid because the medium is completely consistent. And they said, right, we're trying to get consistent results. I said, right, the animals are not consistent.
Yeah.
So you can't let the public believe what you're telling them. And they didn't correct. If they would have said, do not expect this on animals.
Yeah.
This is a foam test, I'd have left them alone.
But they didn't.
And they just kept chipping. And I said, fine. So we went out and shot a pig in a dumpster, a pig in a telephone pole.
I remember that.
And a pig in a box.
Yeah, I remember that.
Guess what? The foam pig was 7 inches every time. The dumpster was reverse penetration, as my son said, because the point went in the shaft and it bounced back about 5 feet. The telephone pole was a 1/2 inch of penetration. The box we shot completely through, but we only got 7 inches of penetration on the pig. The target defines the test.
Yeah, that is true.
So if I'd had a real pig, we could have compared it. But here's the funny part. Those clowns were shooting foam. My foam target gave 7 inches every single shot. Perfectly consistent, because the foam is consistent. And then I backed it up and said, if you want to watch the variability, and I told these guys this before I went off on them, because I did 3 videos on it, just kicking them in the head over and over again. I got tired of it.
Yeah.
Watch YouTube. Watch hunting videos.
Yeah.
Tell me that the penetration is consistent. He says that bozo said it's 100% consistent. Doesn't matter. You go on the freaking YouTube channel, you will never see the same thing twice.
Yep.
And you'll see the same hunter shoot 10 things and never get the same. Some arrows will pass through and fall through. Some of them will zip through and skip off. Some of them will stop.
Yeah.
So I literally waited around for like a year. They put up memes of me with a clown face and all this stuff. And I don't care because you're going to take heat. If you're going on social media, you're going to get smoked. It's fine. But I just went, no, you can't mislead the public. You can't make them think that that's the results on meat.
Yeah.
Told them that. And I said, damn it. If you guys keep doing this, I'm going to shoot a dumpster and I'm going to shoot a goddamn foam pig and we'll see what the results are. And then they said, he just kept chipping. I said, okay, I warned you. I did. Literally, my last text to him was, hang on.
Oh,
we went out and shot the dumpster.
Have you ever had somebody reach out to you after going with a heavier setup and doing all the steps that you say and being like, hey, man, this didn't work. Can you tell me why? Or maybe like a trajectory problem that
there's a lot of people who've gone back down. Like, so they went to like 650 grains and then they end up around 500. And I think it's peer pressure. Now, I've had some guys who did it and have had bad results. They've hit one high. They've lost an elk. That's going to happen.
Yeah, that's hunting.
I say, did the arrow system fail? Nope. Broadhead's good. Just lost one. Okay. The arrow system didn't fail. Yeah. You have to limit that, right? But it's very common now. And I've got a friend who just did this. He was shooting like 540. He shot a 191-inch whitetail, hit the humerus, broke it, and got the deer. Okay. He was like, man, I want to play around with higher forward center and lower mass. So I got him some Geminis, and he's shooting like 490 now.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him the other day. In fact, he's a fishing guide. I'm going fishing with him in 2 weeks. Super nice guy. And he goes, I can see it. When we were talking, we were drinking beer at the boat the other day when we were fishing. I said, what do you mean? He said, I've shot a bunch of pigs now, and I can see the arrows. Like he said, they're not the same.
Yeah. I'm sure.
He gets to shoot a lot of pigs on their place. There's a crap load of pigs on their place. And I said, go to 600, dude. Go to 600. You will not freaking believe the difference. It'll be night and day at 600. And I'm slowly going to rope him in, get the spare dust out.
Bring him over to your side, the fairy side.
Yeah, that's the most common thing is most people, I think there's a lot of peer pressure out there.
Yeah.
And secondarily, I think a lot of people shoot 3D and they think that if you shoot 3D inside of 50, you're probably better off with 475 or something, 450. Not super light because it will drag out.
Yeah.
But it'll be more critical. But a moderate arrow, 425, whatever. But if you're shooting past 50, I'm telling you that even kind of parabola and bear shafting and getting them to fly and behave, you won't believe it. If you zero your bow for that arrow.
Yeah. I mean, if you try to force your sight tape on my arrow, it's a different. Yours is going like this and mine's going like that. Mm-hmm. So what I'll probably do, because I've got actually my first 3D tournament, and not my first, but the first one of this year, 3D tournament, if I could speak, this Sunday, the 11th.
Yep.
And so I'll probably use the arrows I have built already.
Of course.
For that.
Yep.
And then I think it's either the end of this month or next month. We're supposed to be getting the second batch of these new arrows that Nimrod's coming out with. Mm-hmm. And I'll talk with them and say, hey, look, this is the build that I want to do. What do we need to do to make it happen? And then as far as the broadheads go, I'll just talk with BPA and see what we can do with that. Because I mean, I
send some 200s or whatever.
Yeah, and they make them. I mean, they make
so get the 200 and then get the 150 and 200 grain field points. Fiddle around with the shafts. Can you get the components loose? Can you build the whole arrow?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. So you could just say, I'm shooting a 200 grain broadhead. You could adjust the insert mass.
Okay.
So if you need to take 40 or 50 grains out of the insert, then do that.
Right? So one last thing that I've been kind of racking my brain on a little bit. Do you prefer a heavier point? And you kind of already answered this, but if I'm looking at like an insert between 50 to 100 grains, would you, I guess, say go with a lighter insert and heavier head? Or
100%.
Heavy? Okay, got it. See, that's what I was thinking. I wasn't sure.
and this is confirmed by the testing with Ed, and I've shot aluminum inserts with 300 grain points, and they do fine. They're just little short guys, like the gold tip inserts. But in the testing with an 80-pound compound, and Ed confirmed this as well, he saw the same thing. If the broadhead did not bend, the inserts didn't matter.
Okay.
So if you get a long, more robust, thicker, heavier broadhead that can handle impact, I'm going to do a video on that and crush, do some problems with the insert business, but a 200 grain freaking insert so you can shoot a 100 grain broadhead is a stupid. Inserts never killed a damn thing.
I've done that.
I know. You want more robust point. You want heavier steel. You want better steel. That's what kills them. Inserts don't kill them.
Yeah.
And so the only way they make 100 grain broadheads is thin everything out and make it out of cheap aluminum. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's no other way to do it.
I have noticed, though, these broadhead companies are starting to make heavier points. A few of them. Maybe not like the higher names, but
I wish I could have made some money off the deal. You just don't see it coming, so you didn't think twice about it. Yeah, that's the wrench. Getting Mike to make 150 grain points is hard.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got Shields and Bass Pro and all that stuff. That's what sells, right? It's hard for him to make that change. I can understand he's got to be an overrun, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a change coming, though, because a lot of people I've talked to do shoot heavier arrows than, the standard used to be maybe 5 years ago, 400, or maybe not even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, like the standard, 400 is heavy. Everyone's shooting below 400 now. I mean, I probably know one guy that's shooting under 500 besides myself. Everybody else is over 5. So
it's a great hunting weight. 500 to that, like I said, 550 is crazy. 600 is next. It is on meat. On deer, dude, 1/4 and 2 just freaking right at the bone and just freaking wail on their ass. I'm not kidding, but it has to be a single bevel.
Yeah.
Preferably long, durable steel. Can't be a cheap broadhead.
Yep.
Or it will come apart. And you will you'll hear this delightful chut sound, and it'll go right through their ass. And they'll run with their freaking chicken wing in it.
Got that noodle leg going.
Yeah, because it's cut off. Yeah,
Man, you got me excited for this season, dude. And it's only freaking February. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I'm so stoked. Well, look, man, I appreciate you coming on. I know that we could talk about this for 2 more hours, but I definitely want to get you back on probably when I do this build, or as I'm going along with it, and sort of touch on more things. We didn't get to touch on the whole situation with Mr. John that I wanted to, but that you kind of touched on it a little bit, but that whole thing. Let me just say this. And I know I'm not the only person that feels this way. I feel like that whole situation, you were not treated correctly, in my opinion. I listened to that episode a couple times.
I talked to him for an hour before the podcast. I knew what I was getting into, brother.
I know, and I heard you say that recently on some podcast you were just on. I want to say it was like the Hunter podcast or something like that, but you mentioned that, and I was like, well, at least he knew, because I'm listening to it at work, and I'm getting mad. I'm like, bro, and you made a good point. John, and I respect John, I do. He's an elite archer. He is the top of the top, basically. He's not, the average Joe like you and me that just shoots, and I know you shoot probably a lot more than I do, definitely a lot more than I do, but it's just, we're not those guys. That's not us. We're not 6'5" with a 30-foot, wingspan or whatever. Like,
the funny thing is there's a bunch of crap he's bad at, right?
Yeah.
He's average at. There's a bunch of stuff he's average at, right?
There's not one of them.
And so he didn't, he's really good at this thing. And I don't know what he's bad at, but I'm bad at a lot of things and I'm good at a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I just seem to have a better human perspective. I understand average people want to just kill a damn deer, and I'm trying to help them do that.
Yeah.
You got to do arrow flight. You got to go through the reps I told you to go do the bear shaft, pull your balls out of your purse, freaking put in the reps, do the work.
Yep.
Instead of shooting bad arrows and try to outform them, build the best arrows on the planet and you don't have to outform them. Yep. I am not a good shot. I'm not. I don't pay attention to form or anything. I pull back. Listen, here's my 70 yards. I don't have a peep because I'm not giving up my night bow hunting. I'm not shooting a peep. So I go like this. I focus on the string. I kind of put it on the pin. So I kind of know that I got the string on the pin.
Yeah.
Then I open both eyes and I go,
Dude.
and I send it.
Look, you can say you're not a good shot, but if you can hit something at 70 yards with no peep sight, you're a damn good shot, in my opinion.
Well, I'm getting ready to put my little pig target out there. We'll find out how good I am. I was hitting some pretty big targets. I was like, man, I'm pretty good. They're getting close together, but I might be a foot off. So.
Well, make sure you video it.
Yeah, I
want to see it.
All right, man. Dude. I really appreciate it. Holler at me anytime. I'll come back on about the arrow build. Let's do it. That'd be fun.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to it, man. And thank you again for the whole Ed Ashby thing. I cannot wait for that. That's gonna be
okay. I'll send you his number.
Awesome, dude. Appreciate it,
man.
buddy.
Have a good day.
You too, man.
See you.